What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and for the last 2 or 3 weeks, I have been scouring the web to get as much of the actual confirmed information about Secret Wars that I possibly can to bring it to you guys. And again, this is actually going to be pretty helpful for us because what it's going to do is it's basically going to give us this outline of sorts for the events that are coming up with regards to Secret Wars. And we're going to try to do the same thing with DC's Convergence. I'm going to try to go through and see if I can't find as much information as I possibly can about Convergence so I can bring you a video very similar to this one. So the first one is called Dystopia. And Dystopia is based on Future Imperfect. Now, Future Imperfect was a story where the Incredible Hulk was the last surviving member, last surviving superhero among after what appeared to have been basically a nuclear war or a nuclear bombardment that had broken out in the world, which pretty much eliminated almost all life. Now, there was still a group of humans left, but these humans lived under an iron fist of the future version of the Incredible Hulk, who was referred to as Maestro. But what these rebels had done is they had basically jumped back into the past using Dr. Doom's time platform, and they had pulled the Incredible Hulk into that future from the past. And so we had two Incredible Hulks existing at the same time. We had the future version Maestro, and we had the past version who was the good Hulk, basically the one who hadn't succumbed to any kind of dictatorial standard on how he ruled or anything. And the two of them ultimately came into conflict, and the story continued on the way it normally would. But this universe, or I'm sorry, this reality seems to be confined to what appears to be the Society of Hulks, and this is going to basically be a land whereby we see a multitude of iterations of the Incredible Hulk. We're going to see Maestro. We're going to see the Incredible Hulk from maybe Old Man Logan if they choose to bring him back, although that one's currently dead. We're going to see all these different versions of the Incredible Hulk from all across realities, and we're going to see them confined into a single location. Now, this is most likely going to be a story that will launch after the conclusion of various other alternate reality stories, where they try to find where all these Incredible Hulks are going to go. It seems as though they're simply going to land in this one particular location. Now, the next one is Technopolis, and Technopolis is based on the Armor Wars. Now, this looks like it's going to take a different take, or it's going to have a different take from the original Armor Wars storyline. Of course, the original Armor Wars storyline was a storyline whereby the blueprints for Tony Stark's armor had been stolen, and they were being sold off by Justin Hammer. Now, eventually, Tony Stark was able to gain these things back with the assistance of Scott Lang. But what it looks like here is that Tony Stark's not going to be successful in getting his armor back. And so the question is going to be, what's this reality going to look like when Tony Stark never got his armor back? When Justin Hammer continued to sell the armor off to various people, to various countries, and they developed their own Iron Man armor. Now, the next one is the Regency, and the Regency is the one that I think has a lot of Spider-Man fans intrigued, and the reason why is because this is actually an amalgamation of two things. One of the biggest catastrophes in the history of Spider-Man comics was the One More Day event. During the One More Day event, this was a follow-up to Civil War, and again, this story was followed up by a Brand New Day. But what this did is it basically created a circumstance whereby no one remembered that Spider-Man had revealed his identity during the Civil War storyline. But more so than that, the entire marriage, the entire existence, I guess, between Spider-Man and Mary J. Watson was completely cut clean. And so what it looks like Marvel's going to do here is they're going to nullify One More Day. They're going to retcon a retcon. And so what they're going to say is that after Amazing Spider-Man Annual issue number 21, when Mary Jane Watson and Spider-Man got married, that this reality is going to continue on. This reality is basically going to be a reality whereby One More Day never happened. And so we're going to see what the world looks like when Spider-Man and Mary J. Watson stayed married. Now, the next one is King James England. And King James England is going to bring us Marvel 1602. It's going to reinstate the Marvel 1602 universe. Now, those of you who were fans of the Marvel 1602 universe, I think are going to love this. And the reason why is because, as you know, with the Marvel 1602 universe, this was a universe where superheroes had appeared 400 years before they normally would. Instead of appearing in the 20th century, they appear all the way back in 1602. And so as a result, what we found was that there were a multitude of things at work here, ultimately from Uatu the Watcher as well as Doctor Strange, that there was an event, there was a Forerunner that showed up, and so on and so forth. Things got kind of hazy, but as a result, we eventually found that the superheroes that were emerging were not actually supposed to emerge then. Marvel is bringing this continuity back. Not only that, instead of us simply just seeing this alternate reality, or I guess this historical version, this alternate historical version of various superheroes, we're actually going to see the Young Avengers show up here. And so Marvel simply appears to be expanding or bolstering the ranks of the superheroes who were appearing during the 1602 continuity. Now the next one is X-Men, and X-Men I think is a really big one, and the reason why is because this story is going to, or I guess this reality is going to be based off an amalgamation of a couple different things. The first thing it's going to be based off of is Jim Lee and Chris Claremont's run of the X-Men, that is to say X-Men 91, which is the highest selling comic book of all time. But it looks like what it's largely going to be based on is X-Men the Animated Series. Now again, we know that X-Men the Animated Series was largely based on Chris Claremont and Jim Lee's run of the X-Men, but it was also based on X-Factor. And so what it looks like here is they're going to be removing that X-Factor element, or at the very least, they're going to be telling us what happens after X-Men the Animated Series came to an end. What is that version of the X-Men like now? Do they run into the Avengers in this continuity? Do the Avengers even exist in this continuity? Because remember, with X-Men the Animated Series, we never saw any of the Avengers or anything. We never saw any of the Fantastic Four. We didn't really see any of that stuff. It was simply isolated to the X-Men. There was only one other real superhero that we saw that wasn't part of the X-Men universe, and that was Black Panther. We saw him one time, and it was simply one frame, and his back was to the screen. And I don't know why in God's name I remember that, but I do. But the fact remains, this, for those of you guys who read DC Comics, this X-Men 92 is going to be very similar to Batman 66, if that makes any sense to you guys. With that being said, I hope that made sense to you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, let me know. And I will catch you guys later. Peace. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. There you can keep up with all the updates from Comics Explained and talk to me directly.